The next step of Patrick's journey takes him to the south of France.
My father talked about southern France, but how he got there, I don't know. I do remember he told me that more than once he jumped into action. That is, jumped out of a plane when people on the ground were firing. Hi, I'm Patrick.
Hi, very nice.
Historian and ex-para Bob Hilton has brought Patrick to the village of Motte in Provence to tell him more about Alfred's time in the parachute regiment.
This is a beautiful old place.
Yes, it is.
Just give me a little bit of background, Bob. My father's rank at that time was sergeant.
Sergeant Major. He's actually been promoted quite quickly. From 1940 to 1942, he's gone from a corporal to a Sergeant Major.
I've always had the understanding, Bob, that my father was a little unusually old.
I believe he was 38 when he volunteered. And quite a lot of blokes reaching the Sergeant Major at the age of 38 are starting to look towards their retirement, not volunteering for a high-risk job.
This location has special significance in the story of Alfred Stewart.
Well, this area here, we're about 20 to 25 miles in from the southern coast of France. This is where your dad parachuted in with the 2nd British Parachute Brigade on Operation Dragoon.
When was this?
In August of 1944. Your father dropped just a little bit beyond those trees.
We're that close to the spot.
Yeah.
Operation Dragoon was part of the Allied plan to recapture German-occupied France. The first phase was the Normandy landings, which took place on June the 6th, 1944. Operation Dragoon was the second phase, beginning in the south of France on August the 15th. The operation began with an airborne assault by paratroops and gliders. Their task was to secure a pocket of land by the coast ahead of a massive naval invasion later that day. Alfred Stewart, one of the last men leaving France when it fell to the Germans in 1940, was one of 9,000 British and American paratroops on the mission to win it back 4 years later.
Your father had a key job on Operation Dragoon. He was in the Brigade Defence Platoon. He was the Sergeant Major of the Brigade Defence Platoon. He's got about 30 men to protect the brigade headquarters. It is a tough job. There are about 180 men in this headquarters, plus General Frederick, the American commander, and his headquarters. I'm not sure whether you will have seen this photo ever before, but we've been told that is the Brigade Defence Platoon.
That's got to be him. I believe that he is the man standing centre-back with his hands in his pockets and his beret pulled at
a rakish angle.
A very rakish angle. What is the plane? Is that a Dakota?
That's the Dakota. I think we called it the DC-3, but everybody knew it as the DAC, the Dakota.
Were these American or were they...
They were American aircraft flown by Americans.
He looks great.
Bob has organised for Patrick to meet 92-year-old Dick Hargreaves, who served with Alfred on Operation Dragoon. Dick is taking Patrick by helicopter over the very area where he and Alfred jumped in August of 1944.
We left Rome at 1 o'clock in the morning and flew for 4 hours in the dark.
And were you able to distinguish the terrain?
No, because there was a ground mist when we came in over the sea. We had some light attack from the German coastal batteries, and there was a ground mist here, and we all thought we were jumping in the sea. But, I mean, your father and brigade headquarters all landed in the proper dropping zone.
Alfred and the defence platoon landed near the town of Le Mouilly shortly after 4 a.m.
My father and the headquarters group were all landing right here.
Yes?
All around this area.
Yeah, yeah. Sheer luck, really, with American pilots, who knows, they weren't too hot. I mean, you see the rocky hill over there?
Yes.
Well, we had people dropped onto that in the dark, hitting the rocks, breaking legs and arms and worse. But when the green light comes on, you've got to jump. This is about the height we jumped.
It seems very low.
Yeah, well, the lower the better, because you get shot at. You don't want to float about with the Germans having a pot at you.
Alfred's objective was the hamlet of Le Mitain, where he was to secure the buildings earmarked for the Allied headquarters.
I set off to capture that high ground and running into Germans. And we had to kill them and clean them up, but they were in 10s and 20s, you know. And we sent the German prisoners all back to Le Mitain, where your father eventually was. There was a German prisoner of war cage there, and I'm sure your father would have been involved.
I'm sure he
in
would.
keeping an eye on them. The thing that amazes me about your father is his age, you know. To volunteer at 38 to become a parachutist, you know. I did it when I was 21, you know, when you feel a bit more like it.
Patrick now wants to find the buildings where his father was based. Having seen the location from the air, he's searching for the Allied headquarters on foot.
Madame, bonjour.
Monsieur,
Je m'appelle Patrick Stewart. My father, mon père, parachuted
parachutiste.
here
Ah bon.
into this very location.
Il est tombé au mi-temps.
Oui, oui.
Vous voulez rentrer? Il rentre un peu ou
You
non?
want to come in?
Oh, but oui, merci.
Ah, eh ben,
Merci.
rentrez, rentrez. Ah, moi je... voilà,
Vous
très
étiez
bien.
ici?
Alors,
My father was one of those British soldiers whose duty was to protect the headquarters.
Son travail était de protéger le Mitain, le hameau
ah,
du Mitain,
voilà.
en fait.
Oh, bien.
Right here, or rather, can you show us the house where the
Il veut aller
headquarters
voir
are?
la ferme où votre père habitait.
Oui,
Est-ce qu'on
oui,
peut aller voir?
oui,
Will you
oui,
show-
bien sûr.
Merci, madame.
Bien sûr, bien sûr.
Josette Martin was 12 years old during Operation Dragoon and remembers it well.
Oui, 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 oui. Oh,
Yes.
bah, bien sûr.
Her father owned the buildings commandeered by the Allies for their field hospital and administrative headquarters.
Il y avait le quartier général.
The headquarters was just right here,
Et devant, tout de suite devant,
just in front.
c'était un poulailler.
That was a
de la ferme.
a chicken park, and they put the prisoner in the park where the chicken were.
Et voilà le quartier général là.
Here is the headquarters.
Yes. Now, were there both American and British soldiers right here?
Ben, il y avait surtout les Anglais qui sont
Yeah.
arrivés en
More the
débarquant.
British than the
En
American.
débarquant.
And the first who came here was the British paratroop.
As head of the defense platoon, Alfred had responsibility for German prisoners of war, who were kept in a chicken run by the headquarters building.
Ah ben voilà, voilà, il n'y avait que ce chemin là.
That was
et
the
ils
only
étaient
way
là.
going to
Ils
the
étaient là.
place, and they were parked just right here.
Voilà,
All the Germans were in this place.
voilà. Ça c'était comme ça. Et il y
Nothing
avait ça,
changed.
ça.
Nothing
Really?
changed, yeah.
Really? So they were sitting on the ground.
Oh, ils étaient serrés.
Oh,
Oh, il y en avait.
very
Oh.
close together.
Ouais,
No,
ouais,
close together.
Ouais.
They still standing.
And so you were no longer occupied.
Après ça était fini, la guerre était finie.
Yeah, the war was ended for
Ici,
that
c'était-
for this place
Eh
because
ouais. Toujours on parle de débarquement.
we
Toujours.
talk about that day every day and all the time.
On a toujours ce souvenir là.
The airborne troops overcame resistance and destroyed roads and bridges to prevent the arrival of German reinforcements. They were so effective that when the seaborne invasion began soon afterwards, it was virtually unopposed. The Germans were forced into retreat and within a month most of France had been liberated. Operation Dragoon, the forgotten D-Day, has been overshadowed by the landings in Normandy, but it was one of the most successful combat operations of the war.
When I think about his responsibilities to the parachute regiment, I don't think they would have happened to him unless he had been recognized as being a man of some determination, some strength of character. All those things are what go to make a man of courage. But I think he loved what he was doing, you see. And I know that my ambition comes from the same gene pool as my father's, and I'm grateful for it.
Alfred still had one last job to do, and it was a vital one.